What if I told you the entire plot of Black Flag was basically spoiled to us in the first 5 hours of the game, and most of us didn't even notice? Yup, you heard it right. The original Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag was a masterpiece when it came to world building, storytelling, and subtle detail hidden inside both gameplay and dialogue. And with the remake, it feels like the perfect time to look back at some of those hidden details, Easter eggs, and bits of foreshadowing you probably missed or completely forgot. And I can guarantee you that there will be at least 10 of them that you'll see for the first time. Most of us love sailing the Jackdaw, but many of us forget that it originally belonged to the Spanish, and its original name was completely different. In that mission where we steal it, which is literally named Stealing a Brig, before manning its wheel, if you look at its nameplate you can see its original name, El Dorado. It means the Gilded One or the Golden One, and in Mayan mythos, it is the name of a literal city of gold. And to be fair, reading the name El Dorado always makes me remember that classic DreamWorks animated movie. A classic for sure. But we ain't done yet. If you fully upgrade the Jackdaw, including its hull, cannons, mortars, and swivel guns, it will literally turn golden. Even the hull gains golden accents. And what did it tell you its original name meant? Exactly. And with Adewale metaphorically referring to the Jackdaw as a city, it now fully becomes a city of gold, fulfilling its name. This was pretty fun if you actually try it out. Many of you, if not almost all of you, board ships by physically jumping onto the enemy vessel. But you can easily clear small ships and even frigates without needing to go there at all. In the mission Raising the Black Flag, the game introduces this mechanic, but most players don't pay much attention to it. It involves using your swivel guns to target the enemy crew and complete the objective of killing a designated number of sailors. If your aim and strategy are on point, you can finish it in an instant, shortening those boarding sequences by a mile. Just keep in mind that you only get 5 shots, so use them wisely. Coming back to that Spanish fleet from which Edward steals the Jackdaw and which later gets sunk by a storm. What if I told you that something very similar actually happened in real life? The fleet in question was known as the Plate Fleet, and it was carrying a huge amount of wealth from Havana when disaster struck. A violent hurricane sank 11 of its ships and their treasure was scattered along Florida's east coast. And if we translate that lost wealth into today's currency, it would be worth roughly $400 million. And as a fun fact, salvage companies still recover gold bars, artifacts, and coins from the wrecks even today. So Edward's guess about the money was pretty much spot on. In the game, during the peak of piracy, Blackbeard causes a blockade in the city of Charlestown and refuses to lift it until his demands are met. Believe it or not, that's exactly how it happened in real life. He was after medicines, and this was the best method he used to get them. And not only that, even his death is portrayed accurately in the game. Blackbeard was reportedly shot 5 times and slashed multiple times before he finally collapsed. Enough of the historical details, let's make this a bit fun. Back in the era of Ubisoft, devs would casually reuse some of their primary voice artists who had already given voice to the protagonists of their games. And this one's no surprise. In one of the final missions of Black Flag where we tail an Italian diplomat, if you pay attention to his voice, it seems a bit too familiar.
There is no beauty to this city, no expression of joy, no aesthetic plan.
Well, it turns out that it was the voice of our beloved Ezio, as Roger Craig Smith gave his voice in Black Flag as this Italian diplomat we chase. Similarly, Arno Dorian also makes his appearance in a very similar manner, but much more obscure than Ezio. He voices an unnamed British captain that Blackbeard kills in the mission Devil's Advocate.
No. Sack of muzzle gobshite. You'll be hanged and sun-dried just as them there were in Boston.
And another fun fact, he also voiced Pierre in the Siege of Paris DLC for Valhalla. And it seems like Arno and Paris are inseparable at this point. I don't know if it gives the same vibes for you, but for me it was definitely creepy, and the game has a lot of unsettling Easter eggs at this point. If you go to the Punta Guarico area on the map, pardon me if I said something wrong, capture its fort and explore for a while until you reach the well. Wait for some time and you will hear prisoners calling Edward out and trying to talk to him. Their voices fade after a few sentences and most of it is even inaudible.
Isn't anybody going to help me?
They're just going to leave us here, aren't they?
It's very unsettling when you think about pirates being captured and thrown into a pit that's literally sealed by a well. As a child, it gave me the most uncomfortable, creepy feeling I ever got from this game. If you've been watching our channel for quite some time, you will notice that Ubisoft has shown quite a bit of admiration for monsters from H.P. Lovecraft's mythos, specifically the Cthulhu. It's unknown whether they were ever planning something similar for their own series, but they did introduce echoes of it in both Assassin's Creed 2 and Black Flag. At this point, it's pretty well known. If you go to the Anado-based shipwreck and linger underwater near the sunken captain's cabin window, you can encounter a giant squid that hunts down and takes out a white whale, which itself is the largest sea creature in the game. So why is this here? It remains a mystery on its own, and if you're interested in these kinds of mysteries, make sure to check this video for more of them. We all hated the modern day in Black Flag because it felt completely bland. But it did one thing better. It wasn't the hacking or anything else, it was the entire structure itself. If you pay close attention to the layout, the cafeteria, and even the workspaces, they're all 1-to-1 replicas of the Ubisoft Montreal office, just plastered with Abstergo and Animus headsets to give it a different feel. Almost everything is exactly the same, which makes me think, are they Abstergo-like in real life too? Since we're talking about the modern day, here's another detail. In the game, it's stated that the CEO of Abstergo Entertainment, Olivier Garneau, has left for Chicago for some important business, and unfortunately, he never returns. And I know you're smart enough to guess what this is about. In another game of theirs, the seemingly forgotten Watch Dogs, you can actually assassinate him yourself, and that same picture appears in Assassin's Creed Origins modern day, making the two universes interconnected with each other. A nice reference, but very much underrated. Okay, I just couldn't resist talking about Blackbeard again. In the game, we see him with his iconic intimidation technique, where he uses lit fuses in his hair and beard. You might wonder whether all of that was real, but in fact, it was. Legends say that he was a master of theatrical intimidation, and before boarding a ship, he would intentionally set his hair and beard with fuses so that when he appeared out of smoke, he'd look like a demon. Some records even suggest that people were so terrified that they surrendered the moment they saw him. He was a legend indeed. These 4 legendary ships were a pain to fight, no doubt, but one of them in particular felt different and unique compared to the others. And I'm talking about the HMS Prince. The weather around you turns thick and foggy, with the ship appearing like a shadowy figure in the middle of the ocean. Different players have different opinions on it, but I like to think it's a clever nod to the Flying Dutchman. In the maritime folklore, this ship was a bad omen. Whenever someone saw it, death or misfortune was said to follow. And judging by the battle we have with this ship, it's no wonder it feels that way. A faithful Easter egg it is. Again, coming to the modern day. During that section where we hack the CEO's computer and read the files, there's a lot more than meets the eye. Almost majority of these projects listed here are locations and settings that Ubisoft actually used in their future titles. Like Ancient Egypt, which made its way into Assassin's Creed Origins, London, which made its way into Assassin's Creed Syndicate, and the French Revolution, which was obviously present in Assassin's Creed Unity, and some others that haven't been explored yet, but who knows, maybe in the future. Plus, those concept arts of a man in Egypt were the original idea for a Prince of Persia game that sadly never happened. You remember that innocent guy who appears at the very beginning of the story and later takes on the life of piracy for a bit of thrill and adventure? Well, he meets his tragic end off screen, and in a pretty heart-wrenching way. In the sequence where Edward is captured in the fort in Kingston, if you stay for a while and listen to some guards' conversation, they mention that he begged for mercy and kept crying until he was hanged at the gallows.
No, they hanged him too.
Did they?
Aye. Blubbering and bawling. He collapsed at the gallows, weeping like a little lamb.
Serves the bastard right.
It's pretty heartbreaking that we don't even get to see him die, but the good thing is you can take his revenge by killing the guards who were talking about it and making fun of him. In the exact same mission, you can find the skeleton of a familiar pirate, Calico Jack. The funny part is that if you shoot this skeleton with a sleep dart, he will dance for some reason. And I think it's because of the ragdoll physics because he's stuck in a metal hanging cage. But once that animation is finished, he drops down and you can shoot him again and again to re-trigger the dance. How marvelous, a drunkard even in depth. And I don't know about you, but he always reminded me of Jack Sparrow. Heck, even the names are the same. A pirate game with no drinking? Impossible. And it's the same case with Black Flag. Once you unlock a tavern and start drinking, you'll notice Edward getting drunk. Have drinks more than 5 and he will eventually pass out. And once he wakes up, you will find him in a random nearby haystack or in some cases, a pile of leaves. But how did he get there? That's a mystery even we don't know. Assassin's Creed is no stranger to including names of characters that translate to birds. We have Altair, whose name means the flying eagle, and Haydem, which means the young eagle. But in Edward's case, the symbolism isn't in his name. It's in his ship, the Jackdaw. The game even references it as a small bird in Wales. And this time, it was much more direct rather than hidden. But still a nice touch that continues the legacy of assassins and their name meanings. Almost the entire story is a one big historical documentary at this point. In that one scene where Mary Read and Anne Bonny are in the court facing their judgment, they avoid their punishment by saying that they are pregnant. This wasn't something Ubisoft introduced themselves for story purposes, but was an actual thing back then, and exactly what happened in real life. In real life, when they were both at the brink of execution, they delayed it by saying the same thing they said in the game. And it worked. A clever way to exploit this loophole, if you ask. Bartholomew Roberts was an integral character in both AC4 Black Flag and the real world, with records stating that he nearly plundered over 400 ships and was arguably one of the most successful pirates of his time. In the game, after we kill him, we see him sink with the ship and his body lost to the ocean. Knowing what the British Navy did to notorious pirates like Blackbeard, and in order to avoid the same fate for him, he ordered his crew to throw his body along with his belongings into the ocean so that it would never be mutilated or used as a trophy. Gosh. While making this video, I really appreciated the quality of writing back then. It's just unfathomable to think that they're not the same anymore. This was the part I talked about in the intro, and it's true. In the mission titled A Single Madman, which you might remember as the one where Edward takes over Great Iguana, and by the way, did you notice that it said Iguana instead of Inagua? It's Inagua. Yup. I've been there too. Anyway, in this mission, when you finally kill Ducasse and enter the White Room confession, just before dying he curses Edward and says, "Tu trouveras soit le fruit de ton insouciance." And if you complete the game, you will know that by the end, Edward is technically in hell too. He loses all of his friends, the only truly good thing he had in the Caribbean, his wife, the sole reason he left Wales, and practically everything he once cared about. And the worst part is that his greed was one of the reasons it happened. Not all of it, but some of it for sure. So in a way, the hell he found really was of his own making. Correlating with the previous detail, this one can be found in Edward's hallucination just after he escapes prison and realizes how much he was in the wrong. In that dreamlike sequence, when you reach the point where Woodes Roger is telling the tale of the Jackdaw, you can see bodies of Blackbeard and Mary Read hanging in the background. And another fact is that his movement animation during this particular sequence is similar to that of Connor's. A really nice touch if you ask me, and it actually makes both of them related in one way. We already talked about this, that you can board ships without even setting foot on the enemy vessel, but this one's pretty interesting. You can board almost any ship without boarding it entirely. For this to work properly, you have to leave the wheel of your ship and physically swim to the enemy vessel. The crew will already be there, so eliminate them, and once they return to the Jackdaw, the ship's health will be lower by default. Mix and match this with the previous technique and you're practically speedrunning boarding sequences. And if you plan it strategically, you can even kill legendary ships easily. It's pretty difficult to pull off there, but once you get the timing right, it becomes easy as cake. We all love those RDR2 videos where players throw enemies to crocs in the swamp, but little did you know you can do that same thing in Black Flag as well. Yep, Ubisoft did this way earlier. To test this out, one of the best places is the Nassau Swamp. Just throw one of them toward a crocodile and the animal's AI will instantly recognize them as a threat and attack. The result? Your unfortunate victim gets mauled by a crocodile. You remember the galleon you were after in that mission that belonged to Julian Ducasse? You might wonder if it was meant to serve as Nassau's defense, whatever happened to it. The answer is actually quite saddening. If you do a bit of exploring and return to the same island where the game teaches you how to hunt, you will find a massive man-of-war beached on the shore. It's the very same ship we were after, and as a fun fact, if you linger around and happen to have the right treasure map, you can even dig up a treasure chest nearby. By far, one of the most frustrating parts of Black Flag is its HUD toggle. Even though it's contextual and makes sense most of the time, it takes away some of the feeling of playing as an assassin. Your HUD always lowers as soon as you exit a restricted area, but players eventually found an exploit that even works in AC Rogue. To make it permanent, simply enter a restricted area and draw your swords. Then, right at the border of the zone, run while repeatedly pressing the attack button. If done correctly, your HUD will remain permanently up, even while sailing on your ship. I'm really glad this has been fixed in the remake though. Most people access Great Inagua's mansion through the front entrance, but there's actually another way in. Just after synchronizing the viewpoint, take a look behind the waterfall and you will find a hidden tunnel entrance below. From there, you're gonna make your way up and access the mansion from a completely different route. Nothing particularly special, but it's a cool detail that kinda reminded me of Villa Auditore's secret tunnel from Brotherhood. Black Flag is all about money and the pirate life, but there's a much faster way to earn cash and you can do it very early on in the game. During the mission Mr. Walpole, I presume, when you reach the point where the Templars are discussing what to do next with the maps provided by Edward, you can pickpocket all 3 of them and earn a decent amount of money. After pickpocketing all 3, simply reload the checkpoint and do it again. Repeat this process 30 or 40 times and you will end up with a surprisingly large amount of money, more than enough to finish off any remaining upgrades. We know Edward is a pretty loyal man, but even loyal men can lose their sense of loyalty when spend months at sea. So if you thought this scene from the cinematic trailer isn't in the game, think again. After completing the main story, Edward's Cove becomes the new base of operations for the assassins. If you visit later and head into his bedroom, Edward can interact with the courtesan and the screen will fade to black, leaving it pretty clear what happened. Then, if you go outside, there will be a female assassin just nearby. If you interact with her, she will let you chase her and the sequence eventually leads back to the same bedroom. Jesus, Edward definitely has his secrets. I myself only learned this recently, but if you think the new AC4 will allow you to pet parrots only, then you're wrong. In the original game too, you could pet parrots. Although it was very obscure and a vast majority of the fans didn't know it, but it was there and it was a nice touch. This one's pretty popular already, but there's a strange detail I noticed. We all know where the Jackdaw wreck can be found in the Black Flag DLC Freedom Cry. But if you pay close attention, you can notice that this Jackdaw didn't have the max hull upgrade or anything like that, which could imply that the time we spent upgrading the Jackdaw to his maximum level might not be canon. So did Edward remove the hull upgrades himself, or was all that grind non-canon? Let me know in the comments. Most people think that changing the sea shanty to your liking is a feature recently added in the new remake, but you could do that before too. While sailing, if you continuously press the sing shanty button once the crew has started singing, they will switch their shanty. The only downside was that you had to shuffle again and again until you found the one you were looking for. It was one of those obscure features that almost nobody knew about at the time. It's not a detail or an Easter egg, but a fact I discovered recently. If you're a completionist and prefer finishing side quests, activities, and missions first so you become overpowered for the main story, you can actually do all of that by Sequence 6. The full map unlocks in Sequence 4 after you get Great in Agua, but some assassinations, contracts, and force are story locked. So it takes until Sequence 6 to fully unlock every upgrade and cosmetic item for Edward and the Jackdaw. I don't know how many of you know this, but I'd like to say this is a pretty well-known one. This game and Rogue had these sets of challenges that could be completed based on your gameplay. Once completed in a set, they unlocked a unique cheat, like invincibility, infinite ammo, and more. But once you complete each and every one, the game rewards you with an undead crew that sails alongside you. It's a pretty disturbing and fun Easter egg, and it really shows how much replayability the original game had. We already said that the entire modern day was a satirical take on Ubisoft itself, and the marketing videos we got from Abstergo reflect that too. After hacking a computer, we get a marketing video of Connor Kenway where Abstergo classifies him as too stoic and non-marketable for being too serious. And as a fun fact, the voice behind these videos is Ezio's. All of this feels like Ubisoft poking fun at their own characters, since in real life people heavily criticize Connor for being too bland, emotionless, and not as charming as Ezio. But to be very honest with you, I hated this take. Connor has depth and is in fact one of the most loyal assassins to the Creed so far. I just don't know why fans hated it. You might have wondered how Edward's robes changed so much after he became a pirate. The game says they're Duncan's robes, but they look completely different. The answer is actually reflected quite accurately in his in-game model. If you look closely, he ripped off the sleeves of Duncan's overcoat and then wore another shirt beneath it, which we see during the mission where he's marooned on the island with Vane. However, I'm a bit skeptical about the back portion of the robes. You know, the area that flows when you move? That doesn't quite look like Duncan's outfit. It could be that Edward wore a new outfit underneath the overcoat or something, but it's still a nice detail that it didn't just magically give him a brand new set of clean robes, and that too instantly. But instead, they added some grounded visual continuity. And yeah, that's pretty much it. This is where the video ends. There's still a lot more out there, but most of it is either already well known or covered by other creators. I wanted this video to focus more on the obscure and lesser talked about details, and I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know which one was your favorite and how many of these you already knew. I'll see you next time. Till then, keep sailing lads, and goodbye.